When did you realize that you wanted to be a writer?
I think it started, I was reading a lot when I fell in love with books, and I started reading all the time. After a couple years, I started, I'd be mad or sad when the book was over, or I didn't like that it was over, I didn't like the way it ended. I started writing pretty much fan fiction. Before I knew what fan fiction was, I would keep the story going. And then a couple years later, I started writing my own stories. So that was a sign. And then I think I was at the end of high school, like my senior year, I was around 18, and my dad came to me and was like, what do you want to do in college? What do you want to be? And I said, I think I want to be a writer. And he said, really, what do you want to be? And I think, so that's when I knew what I wanted, but I thought it might be too hard, like too much of a dream.
Let's talk about the Firelight trilogy a little bit. How was the writing process of that book? How the idea came to you?
At the time with the Firelight trilogy, I just discovered young adult. I had not read a young adult novel since Christopher Pike when I was like 13 years old. And I did not know what had happened in young adult, that it had exploded into this huge, this is the age of young adult novels. I didn't know this. I had a good friend that's a writer that started writing young adult. And I was reading her stuff and she'd read mine, but she bought me The Hunger Games and I said, this is not like anything I've ever written before. And I said, I think I want to write a young adult novel that is paranormal, that has a romance, that's epic, big world. But I don't want to do werewolf, I don't want to do vampire, I don't want to do everything that's already being done. And I came up with the idea of dragons.
Okay, now let's talk about Reign of Shadows.
Okay.
Can you introduce
Yes.
Luna and Fowler?
It's year 17 of a dark eclipse. So the sun is behind the moon. There's 23 hours of darkness in a day and 1 hour of light. And the 1 hour of light, they call it midlight. And even that hour of light, it's sort of murky, shadowy, kind of like dawn. So what happened on the eve that the dark eclipse came, my heroine, Luna, was born. And Luna is a princess, but she was whisked away because chaos came over the land, monsters came out of the ground that have been incubating, and they've been waiting for this dark eclipse to come out and hunt and feed. So she escapes as an infant, a baby, with some guardians, and she lives in a tower in a dark wood. And then the other character is Fowler, and he's my nod. I love Daryl from The Walking Dead. And I said, I want to write a badass guy who can survive this, like a world of monsters. And he's just very skilled and calm and cool in the face of danger. And he's an archer. He can use a sword too, but he's an archer. The book feels very medieval, and they come together, they meet at the beginning of the book.
Was it difficult to write a story with a blind character?
In this world of darkness, I thought it would be ironic and interesting that to make Luna, my protagonist, blind, because it's something in our world where, our normal world that we live in, blindness is perceived as an impairment or a handicap. So in this world, her blindness, everybody is stumbling around in the dark, hoping not to make a lot of noise so a monster doesn't come. So they're called dark dwellers. So a dweller doesn't come out and eat them or drag them down underground. So for her, she's like, I got this, I'm used to darkness. Her other senses are very heightened. So it's almost her superpower in a way.